Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, today I'm going to be talking about the science of social bonding and social interactions. And when I was researching for this video, I was simply overwhelmed by the amount of recent discoveries. In fact, most of the papers that I cite in this video series that I'm about to introduce are from 2018 onwards, which means that this knowledge that I think that is so important and can have such a positive impact on people's life has only been discovered 6 years ago. So let's get this message out there. All right. Now, because of the importance of the topic, I have decided to divide my large video into three smaller ones. So the first video is going to take a look at the social homeostatic system. The second video is going to take a look at the consequences of prolonged social isolation. And finally, the third video will explore how a healthy social or romantic bond should look like, both on a subjective and neurobiological level, some recommendations to reverse the damages of chronic social isolation, and some prescriptions to improve your current relationships. Now, in relation to the social homeostatic system, most animal species have a social homeostatic system that has three parts: the detector, control center, and effector. But human beings have a fourth component. So let's take a look at it, just top contour kind of stuff. The detector. The detector will assess the frequency and the quality of your social interactions, and will take this information and send it to the control center. The control center will compare it to its standards. If there's an imbalance, either over it or under it, it will initiate a cascade of events mediated by hormones, mainly oxytocin, to drive the human being towards or away social interaction. But at this point, it's important to note that the control center is not responsible for the movement towards or away social interaction, but instead it's responsible for the subjective feeling of either loneliness or social satiety. And actually, this is important to remember. Whenever we're talking about feelings, I feel like we are talking about hormones, but anyways, topic for a different video. Third, we have the effector. The effector is what actually drives the movement towards socializing or away from socializing, and it is mediated by neurotransmitters, mainly dopamine. Yes, we will talk about dopamine in this video series. It'll be good stuff. But the human being's social homeostatic system has a fourth component, which is the contextualizer. The contextualizer offers a bit of flexibility between these semi-autonomic responses. What does this mean? Well, the detector, control center, and effector all operate subconsciously. Now, we can be aware or conscious of the end products, either the subjective feeling of loneliness or social satiety, or the movement towards socializing, but we're not aware of the process that leads up to those end products. Now, the contextualizer can either accelerate that process or put the brakes on that process. And we'll explore the mechanistic and biological components of this in the respective video. But let me just say that it is amazing. It is so, so cool. But even more cool is that this social homeostatic circuit, which is a neural circuit, which again is just fancy nerd speak for different brain areas working in concert towards one same goal, this neural circuit is actually repurposed for hunger and feeding. Now, what does this mean? It means that for nature, social interactions are as important as food and nutrients. Now, let me say this in a different way so it really hits home. For the integrity of the organism, which is you, evolution has determined that social interactions have the same value as getting enough food and nutrients on a daily basis. Insane. Now, we will also learn that the social homeostatic system is not the same from one person to the other. And in fact, there are great differences depending on whether the person is an introvert or an extrovert. But we will also learn the correct definitions of introversion and extroversion. Both types of people crave social interactions. But for the introvert, less is more. They need less social interaction to feel satiated. And for the extrovert, on the other hand, they need a bit more to reach that same level. And we will take a look at the neurobiological underpinnings of this statement that I just made. It is simply amazing, just beautiful findings in recent literature. Now, we will also explore how acute social isolation actually drives social seeking. What does this mean? It means if you're socially isolated for a short period of time, 1 day to 2 days, you will actually have a drive towards seeking human connection. But, and this is really scary, but if you're chronically socially isolated, then your brain changes and makes it more difficult for you to get that social interaction that you so desperately need to be healthy. And we'll take a look at exactly how it changes, what causes it to change, and how to reverse it. So don't worry, okay? Now, in relation to the negative consequences of social isolation, we will explore the following, but there are so much more, but we will explore that increased social isolation in a chronic way can increase the risk of neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's by as much as 27%. That means that if you're socially isolated in your youth, chronically of course, you have a 27%, higher chance of developing Alzheimer's when you're in a later stage of life. This is crazy. But we also have an increased risk for cardiovascular disease. We have altered endocrine, which is hormonal systems. We have a weakened immune system, shorter lifespan. In fact, there are studies that prove objectively that chronic social isolation is as damaging to the mind and body as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But the greatest consequences are in the structural and functional changes in key brain areas. Now, these brain areas are not only recruited or involved in social interactions, but they're also involved in future planning, in cognition, in emotional processing, in relationship to self. So if we have damages to these areas, our overall quality of life is going to reduce. But again, I'll give some prescriptions on how to reverse some of these changes. Some of them are obviously permanent, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And finally, to put a positive spin on everything, we will explore what a healthy social or romantic bond looks like. And we will try to answer these following very contextually important questions, which are: 1, does social media have the same effect neurobiologically and subjectively as in-person interactions? 2, if I am chronically socially isolated, how can I leverage this newly found knowledge to get back out there? 3, what is human-to-human regulation, or in scientific terms, what is bidirectional physiological regulation? 4, what are some recommendations to improve my current social bondings? And 5, what should I look for in a partner? What should I look for in a friend? Not in characteristics, but how they should make me feel to know that that person is actually adding on to my life rather than subtracting from it. So guys, this video for me is extremely important. I'm extremely passionate about this subject. I feel like the information needs to get out there. And I feel humbled to be able to be the one that puts this information out there. You know, it's insane. And then depending on how open or not I feel, I'll speak about my own personal experience with social interactions. You know, we all have these weak areas in our lives, and this, particularly this one, is one of my weak areas. And you know what? I will make a video where I talk about my personal challenges and how I overcame them. Because as soon as I learned how important socializing was for the integrity of our organism, I put it as number one priority. And my life has improved tenfold since, and I want to bring that same feeling to other people. Hmm. So, with all that being said, guys, please keep your eyes out the rest of this month for all these great videos. I think that they're going to really create a difference in our community. And I love you guys. Thank you for your continued support. And rock on, or I don't know, hang loose, something. Bye. I'm leaving.